I'm Nicola, and welcome to the Being Our Best podcast. I'm a coach, and I have been a coach my whole career. For the last 2 decades, I've worked with executive leaders, professional athletes, and people who generally want to be their best in whatever they do in organisations across the world. And I love what I do. Every day I get to stand side by side with my clients, looking at their world, and quite honestly, I'm amazed by it all they are and all that they lead. We look at what they want, we look at what they're moving towards and what that is at its very best. And we look at who they want to be and who they need to be in order to achieve that very thing, who they are at their best, how they do that, and how they show up in their world as that person and the version of themselves that people want to be on the journey with too. In this podcast, I'll be talking to those leaders who, like you, have stories. Leaders who will be sharing their stories, their lives, their lessons, their learnings from all that they've been through to get to today, how they've done it, and importantly, how they've done it as their best. I hope that within these episodes, you find insight, inspiration, and a tip and technique or two. Hello, today I'm talking to Barron CBE. Paul is a people leader. Paul is known for transforming organisations for the good through human-centred leadership. Paul was appointed Chief Executive of NATS in June 2004, a high in his career amongst other positions, including President of Alstom UK. I've invited Paul here because Paul's a man of stories. And personally, I love listening to his stories, and I believe that there are insights and nuggets in there for you, and just generally, it's lovely to hear them. So that's why I've invited him today. So thank you, Paul, for joining me.
I'm delighted to have been invited. I hope you find it interesting.
Of course. Right, so where did you first learn about the part that people play in achieving outcomes, in leading outcomes? I guess if you can go back and perhaps tell us an earlier story, like where did you first learn about the part that people play in leading outcomes?
Probably as a child, way back. My parents were... we lived in a fairly deprived area, and there's no money really in the house. So I learnt how to earn money quite quickly. As soon as I could get a paper around a butcher's job and anything else I did, anything to bring in money. And that's been a driver for me most of my life, really. In terms of... if we forget outcomes for a moment, just think about leadership.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think about where was my earliest memories of anything that looked like leadership. And it probably comes from my mum and dad. I wondered why I found it so easy and others found it so hard, seemingly, and why they couldn't see it, why they just couldn't get the picture.
So you could always see it, but others couldn't. It was something.
I felt so. Yeah. I mean, my earliest leadership experiences were poor. The leaders back then, and working for large organisations like GC. The company I worked for, the gas turbine company I worked for, was part of GC, and Lord Weinstock, who was notorious for never visiting you, only managing it through the numbers. So the highest leadership in the organisation was terrible, really. I mean, he wasn't a great leader. He was a fabulous businessman, but not a great leader. And that sort of permeated through the organisation. You had to be like him to work for him, really.
Yeah.
So my early memories of leadership in an organisation was that the leadership, I always thought that they could do a much better job.
Okay, so it's interesting that you could even see that at a young age. The leadership role models, shall we say, that you had even back then, they weren't.
They were mediocre at best.
Yeah, they weren't inspiring to you back then, and even back then you could see what was missing.
Yeah. Quite early. I think the thing that I tried to wonder why I felt I could see it, and I think it goes right back to my parents. So my mother was she was quite a feisty character. Spoke her mind. You didn't always want to hear it, but you did get it. She was confrontational, so if there's some things she didn't like, she would take it on. And my father was a diplomat.
Okay.
And my father also was a shop steward, a union shop steward at another factory. So my breakfast table conversations were often about how poor the management was. And it wasn't, what I learned very early was that the trade union guys, it wasn't all about pay. Most of it was about working conditions and safety. They weren't communicated with very well. And I always remember that vividly. So when I started work, I could see what he meant. We weren't communicated with very well. When you're coming up to a company and you're on the shop floor and you're working, they don't tell you what's going on. It's more carrot and stick, not a lot of carrot. So I think that's what forged me.
So it was the combination of those two parenting styles in a way, or ways of being, a kind of like a force, a mum who spoke her mind and took things on, and the diplomat who not cared, it's the wrong word maybe, a diplomat who was concerned for how people experienced their working life, and the different communication styles kind of forged you.
Yeah, I think so.
A combination of those two.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. My mum was very loving, and I lived in a fabulous childhood. It's just that I had to be very careful around what I said to my mum.
Yeah. Okay.
And my dad taught me how to do that, basically. So I guess they're the two skills that took me into work. But my earliest recollection of somebody that I actually quite liked. He was a trainer when I left school at 16 and started in an apprentice shop with 60 other guys with machine tools and everything else. So it was very strict. We came out of school and into a fairly strict environment, and the trainers there were hot on us from the very beginning to bang into us, really, the disciplines of working in engineering and around machine tools and all that goes with it. And we had a guy there who he nicknamed Piggy Gilbert. I won't go into why, but they all had nicknames, of course. And Piggy Gilbert was fastidious, and he was very much driven by order and tidiness and being neat and being organised and everything else. And that appealed to me because I was born like that. I was very neat as a kid. I always put my toys away, and driven by my mother who wouldn't let me keep them out. But,
so that program came from somewhere, but that's a value that you.
Yeah, it's a value I've always had. And interestingly, my son has got the same value. I've got twins. He's got exactly the same value. His sister wasn't like him. That wasn't. Built in the same way, but they're twins, so they had a lot in common. So I learned that from him, putting the tools away at night, clearing up, and because I was interested in him, he realised I was quite interested in why. So he would take me aside and explain why. And I remember he was selling a lawnmower once, and my dad needed a lawnmower. It was one of these push-along ones back then. So we went to have a look at his lawnmower in his shed, and his shed was unbelievable. I mean, I can't imagine that you could walk in a shop that looked tidier than his tool shed. Everything in its place, shadow graphs, everything.
Can I just capture some of the things I'm getting about almost like the almost like a combination of what I'm hearing. I know you're mid-story here, but it feels important to say what I'm already getting about you, and I think I know this to be true anyway, just from working with you, Paul, It's like you have a capability that I don't think everyone has, which is the ability to speak your mind.
Yeah.
but speak it in a way that is considered and conscious of how it's going to be received.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like it comes from dealing with your mum and your dad perhaps talking that.
Yeah.
But there's also a diplomacy in you that I think has been nurtured through your dad, and you've learned as a leadership lesson. I'm already catching the value of being disciplined, of order, of doing things the right way.
Yeah, clarity.
Okay.
Having clarity.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I often think about what do you want to know when you work in an organization. What do you want to know? And there are three basic things that I think you want to know as an employee. One is, where's the company going? And what's expected of me? What's my role in that? And then the second thing is, I've got the freedom, authority, and the capability to do it? Have I been trained? Have I got some freedom around my job? Or is it just you do this? And then finally, how well am I doing? And they're the three main questions that I think any employer and any employee wants to know. In so many organizations, when I've worked with them since, or I go into them, a lot of these things are missing.
Right. Okay.
Particularly around, where's the company going? Is there a strategy? Is there a vision? Is there a plan?
You're a mentor now. I didn't mention that in your opening. You're a mentor, and you work with chief execs now in that way. And are these some of the areas that you help them develop when you're mentoring?
Yes. Yeah. They're usually missing in some form in terms of how they manage their employees.
I'm thinking about sort of what is leadership to you, and it feels so far. It feels so far that it's about how you work with people. It feels about discipline in service of clarity. It's discipline, it's clarity, it's ensuring that the people that you're leading know certain things in order for them to be engaged. I'm just wondering about if you can tell us about where your way of leadership has achieved an outcome that you're, I guess, proud of, or a tangible. If you're saying that leaders at their best are leaders who are self-aware, able to speak their mind, diplomatic, clear, and the content is on the things that you've mentioned. Can you give me an example of, or can you give the listeners an example of where that has really had an outcome?
I'll give you two ends of my career. So at the early end of my career, my first big job, if you like, was I'd been traveling the world. Long story about how I got there, which I won't go through, but I've been traveling the world advising customers of ours on their stock holding in the spares organization. I got it because I applied for a fellowship with GEC to go to America to learn about leadership. Interestingly,
okay.
I didn't get the fellowship, but the consolation prize was I got to do this job in my company. Now, nobody had visited these businesses we'd sold to sell them spare parts or advise them on spare parts, and we sold to 104 countries. So in my first year, age 22, I travelled to I had 71 flights, and they're all the hotspots of the oil world. So the Middle East, North Africa, West Africa, really difficult places to travel to for a guy that has not been any further than the East Coast in his life for 1 week a year on holiday. So I'm suddenly traveling the world, absolutely green as grass, but learning quickly and getting advice from people who knew their way around. So I did that, and it struck me when I was when I'm doing all this that all these orders are going to come in with time, and we're not going to be able to deal with them because we weren't organised. The spares organisation back then was a shambles of a place. absolute shambles. And the manager was, I think he was put out to grass. I'm not being unfair to him. He's long since passed, but he was put out to grass there. It wasn't a very good manager. He was a commercial guy who managed contracts. You know, he got about 50 or 60 people. They turned over, I don't know, 500,000, 750,000. And I could see it was going to mushroom. And I looked around at the department that I just joined because I'd come in from the factory. And they all had their little fiefdoms. None of them worked together. Okay. You know, you got the material control people, you got the stores people. Okay. They were all in one office, but they'd built themselves little barricades.
Yeah, okay.
And the manager never took them down. And the people that run them were all difficult people, hard people to work with. Yeah. So I wrote a report that said we should set up a completely new spares organisation away from the factory. And we should manage it with people. We should staff it with people who understand retail, because we were largely retailing spare parts, packing them, storing them, sending them out. And this was, 1973, so it's way back. Anyway, a long story afterwards that they decided they were going to go with my report.
Okay.
That took a bit of doing. And I was given the job of finding some premises, which I found on the outskirts of Lincoln, away from the centre of Lincoln, which might as well have been on the moon because nobody wanted to go there. And so I then wasn't going to get the job as manager. They were going to leave the manager in place. So I threatened to leave, and they eventually gave me the job. So I was 24. So I decided that I was going to apply what I thought was leadership to that move. So firstly, I got them to look at their drawings and design their office area themselves. I gave them a colour palette so they could have what colour walls they wanted, because in the factory all the walls are the same colour, dull grey, so they could have colour. They had new telephones, new furniture, because all the furniture was 50 years old. And I communicated with them all the time about the move. I took them down there, I listened to their concerns, and then I fixed their concerns before I took over. And then I made it very clear that, all these barriers were going to come down. And if they didn't come down, then the people running that department will be removed. And I made that clear from the beginning. Now, these are guys, a lot of them in their 50s and 60s, never been spoken to like this, never had this sort of threat.
Can I pause here, because I'm really keen to capture like the things that stand out to me as you're talking. I'm just going to go back a step, if I may, because I believe you came back from your travels, or maybe during your travels, and you could see this, use for the metaphor of it's going to mushroom, and you can see the problem coming.
Yep.
And you used your instinct, because you were 20 in your early 20s.
But
it's a time of instinct, isn't it? It's
not experience.
No, quite, so you use your instinct to flag something, but more important than just flag it, to provide a solution and what you believe needed to happen in order to be able to deal with what the consequences of your travels. So you missed the story. We don't kind of need to know the battle, but I get the sense that was a battle. But people bought into what needed to happen. And then when getting that change, you kind of held firm on the belief, but also you made it kind of appealing, like the thing about the colour palettes. It's a simple thing, but actually making it a place where people wanted to be, an enjoyable space, so that people were actually like, oh, this could be a nice thing, a positive thing to move towards, and it's that kind of moving towards things. But then I guess the bit that I also wanted to capture in your leadership style there was that kind of directness and the need to say what needed to happen, which was that thing of, these walls are going to come down. Otherwise this isn't going to work, and we aren't going to work. So there's there's a candor within that, and I can imagine that was said with a sense of consideration and diplomacy, but also clarity.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to pull those things out for the listeners, because that's what I was just hearing. And so you were clear. The walls were coming down, and where continue the story.
Well, so we moved.
Okay.
And they could all park their cars, which they couldn't do in town easily.
Oh, lovely.
And the staff room, I put a pool table in, a dartboard, a microwave, which was brand new in its day. I mean, I think microwave's only been out a few months.
Really?
I bought a microwave and a fridge and everything. So they had like what you would now call a more modern space. Back then, you never had these things.
Okay.
They didn't exist in offices. Your cups of tea and coffee were in a flask or whatever you brought.
Yeah.
So that really the story, the main piece of the story, I think, for viewers is that I set out a vision from day one of what it would be like to work there, and then I got them to buy into the vision.
Okay.
Then I told them the way we were going to work there, which was going to be very different, and they had to take these barriers down. We had to work more as a team, and we were going to get an influx of orders that we'd never seen before, and we're going to have to modernize. We had no computers back then. All the stores, there weren't any, or very few. And I'd seen that computers working in an organization when I was traveling.
Okay, you see, so the benefit of that, benefit of going outside. You saw how other people do things.
Yeah, and I'd seen stores that were computerized. So I told them we're going to bring in computers. Well, I might as well, sending them to the moon again. Well, what does a computer do? I mean, it was as basic as that back then. You can't believe this now, but it was. So I'm trying to get them to want to take on the vision, to be more as a team, working together, finding new solutions to doing things, quicker ways of doing things, slicker ways of doing things. So I'm giving them all the freedom to come up with ideas, and I'm listening to their ideas. We had a meeting once a week where they could just bring their ideas, and we'd kick them around and listen to them, and then we'd talk about them, and if we could, we'd implement them. And then when we brought computers in, that it was a new dynamic in the organization, and the guys that had been working on bits of paper before were struggling, and they were all men. They were struggling with computers.
Okay.
So eventually I replaced them with clerical staff, largely women back then, who were good with typing skills,
it's big evolution, but you're recognizing the challenges and equipping with resources to be able to deal with the change, aren't you, ultimately?
And of the 6 or 7 managers that worked for me, 2 of them made it.
All right.
And the other 5 of them I had to remove.
Okay.
Because
what was that about?
They couldn't manage.
Okay.
They couldn't change.
Yeah.
They wouldn't work as a team.
Okay.
They wanted to keep everything to themselves. Power was strength back then.
Okay.
Knowledge was strength back then, so you don't share it. So the only way was to remove them. I mean, I gave them plenty of opportunity. I trained them. I did all sorts of things with them, but they just couldn't change. I mean, a lot of them were towards retirement, so it wasn't a huge shift, if you like, in how things were done. But I retired a lot of them early, and then replaced them with younger, modern thinking managers who wanted to learn and shape.
There's something about ensuring that you've got the right people in the right seats that are able, in mind and capability, to be able to do the job.
And modern thinkers. And then we drove targets that they'd never had before. So sales targets to try and sell more spares. We went from 500,000 to about 5 million in 2 or 3 years, and then we went to about 15 million in the next 2.
Goodness
and then eventually, I mean, that business now is 600 million. So it was always going to rocket because of the volume, the things you're putting out, and the fact that we were now working with our customer. and advising them and helping them with their stocking policy. So that was my early experience. But I think the viewers will probably be more interested in my later experience, which was now.
And just out of interest, who was that company? You say it's on 600 million now. What
back then, I mean, it's been about 10 companies. It's a bit like Trigger's brush, you know. So it's the same company. But it's now Siemens.
Oh, is it right?
Now run it, but it was rust and gas turbines, and it eventually became Alstom, and then it had a few other names in between. So I was headhunted into NATS. Interestingly, from a guy that had he was the managing director of BP in the UK, and when we were supplying to the North Sea, he was really interested in what I was doing with the factory, and he sent some of his apprentices and graduates to work in our company for a while to see how we were going about some change programs that I was bringing in when I became the MD. And then he headhunted me to go into NATS, National Air Traffic Services, so air traffic control. It was in Southampton. Didn't particularly want to go there because I live in Lincoln. But he talked me into it, and he took care of all the problems I had with.
He made it easy for you.
He made it easy for me. So the interesting thing about it, which is what I now use when I'm mentoring, is that when I went into NATS, I didn't know anything about the business. So I know what anybody else knows about it. You know, things go wrong and Europe shuts down. So the first thing I knew was that I can't control any traffic, so I'm not going to sit at a screen. Everybody would be pleased to know. I can't design three-dimensional airspace. I can't manage absolutely complex projects like building a new centre in Prestwick. And I hadn't been used to the size of the communication that goes on in a company like that, where you've got the external communication, you're in the public eye, you have to be trained for all of that, and all the internal communication, because
almost like a PR piece, like the PR aspect of it.
And I was the first commercial CEO to go into the organisation, pretty much.
What did they have before that?
Military or civil service. So my commercial approach was new to the organisation, which was why I was brought in.
Culturally,
the year when I went in, it was losing 100 million a year,
right?
Which is quite a number. Of course, the government has to bail it out every year. Or the shareholders have to bail it out. Shareholders, of course, are the airlines. So partly the airlines and partly the government. So it was simple, really. I'm brought in to lead. I can't do any of these things, so my job is to lead.
So you could be pure. So I think I'm kind of sort of summarising where we've been, but it's like, so what therefore was your focus? If you didn't know and you say you needed to lead, what would you describe as that for the listeners almost?
Okay, so well, firstly, I had to understand the business. So I had to do it, but I can't spend 3 months here and 2 months there. I'm day one, and I'm sat in the seats. So I had to do it through my team. So the first thing was to understand how good my team was. Did I have a strong enough team to do this? And what I learned was that they were largely very good. I mean, this is a very high performing organisation, and and it's. I don't want anybody out there to think that it's never safe, because it's always safe. But leadership wise, and the fact that we had to take 100 million out, and we needed to change the way the business was run to make it more commercial, that no one knew how to do that.
So this is very much about your transformation, was about the leadership of the business, not the operation of the business. It was the leadership.
Yes, it was absolutely the leadership. So the first thing that I introduced them to was a concept I use a lot, which is that my job, I'm the orchestra leader.
Okay.
And they are the instruments. And we've got to firstly decide what music are we going to play.
Yeah.
and it's going to be very different from anything they've ever played.
Okay, yeah.
And the second thing is, are they good enough on their instruments
to
play that and get the rest of their brass section or whatever to work with them. So that was the first thing, was to get them to see that I am not going to be in your business, I'm not going to be doing your job. I'm going to be sitting above it, managing you, doing your jobs, leading you, doing your jobs. My job is to help create a vision. It's to develop a strategy. It's to look at what the issues are in the organization, to make sure you're all equipped for it, to sit with this team of mine, which is about 10 at the time. And I used to have a weekly one-to-one with them, 2 hours, where I sat and went through what they're doing, and how the change is going to affect them, and what do they need.
That's a large amount of time. So you focused your time. So you say 1-to-1, 2 hours. Approximately 10 people.
No, I did that for 6 years.
For 6 years, you spend your time basically having conversations with your direct team.
But the bigger thing that I did was, I started on the Monday, and on the Friday, I set off on a roadshow around the business, which took me 3 months.
Okay.
So I was never in my office. I was always out amongst the business. So I got round all of the business, and I went round all of the sites, which there are 15 airport towers and 4 centres, and 3 technical areas, and all these. Went around them all, but we run a 5-shift system there back then, still do. So I had to get around the shifts as well. What I would do is I had what I called bar stool sessions. So I set up the bar stool, literally, sat on it. There was no barrier between me and the seats. Anybody could come from their shift, and I would tell them who I am, what I'm doing, how, and what my remit is.
And there's something very human and open about that. Like you say, that there's no barrier. You're standing in front of.
They'd never seen their CEO. Most of them had never ever seen their CEO.
That in itself was new.
Yeah. He never left his office.
Okay.
I was never in mine.
So your way is to get out there, get amongst it, and connect. I feel like connect. I'm going to say I'm leading slightly here, but like connect with people.
And talk to them.
So
I spent 10 or 15 minutes talking to them, and then I listened to them for 45 minutes. And I got someone with me to write down what they were saying. So I'd say to them, okay, so tell me what's not working for you in this organisation, and don't tell me it's pay, because I know how much you get paid. So let's not go there. Just tell me what's not working. So they told me all the things that really niggled them, and interestingly, they were small things. The hole in the car park, the dripping in the roof, this doesn't work. Whatever. There were small things.
But those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, they became bigger as people got to know me more. They would explain some of the more technical things. And they would be challenging me all the time, because they say, well, how can you run the business when you don't know? And I said, well, I don't need to know, as long as you know. I'm seeing the result of you knowing coming out in the results. Then I don't need to know. I don't need to do your job. That's your job. My job's to run this company. This is a £1 billion company. So and I have to deal with shareholders, and I have to deal with the outside press.
That's my job.
That's my job.
You knew your job.
So I got this team together, and together I took them off site, I think 3 times in the first 6 months, 2 days, worked with them. They hadn't done a lot of that before. Worked with them on a new vision, on the vision that was going to deliver profit, not loss, and it was going to deliver change to how the organisation worked. And I knew what that looked like from day one, because I could see where it wasn't working. And by talking to my team, I could see that they weren't all working together necessarily. Although a lot of them were, or trying to. It was a frustrating time, I think, for the good leaders in the organisation to try and, try and take the organisation somewhere, because they were a civil service organisation reporting into 6 airlines and a government and regulators sat on our board, and I mean, it was a really complex structure. So we developed together a very powerful vision of what the future might look like, and then we captured that vision in what we call 21 destinations, and the 21 destinations was a play on, obviously, on what we were doing, moving traffic to destinations. And the 21 destinations were basically targets, all of them stretching, all of them seemingly unachievable.
Yeah.
So then we took that on the road to talk to the middle managers first, and there's a group of 180 sort of middle man. Anybody that led anyone got trained and got immersed in this, and hopefully got on board with it. And then we took it out on the road and talked to people. And the answer all of the time, the answer was, well, we're not going to do that. If we miss one of these targets, Mr. Barron, are you going to resign? I said, no, I'm not going to resign. Why do you want me to resign? Well, because, you're setting us all these stupid targets. I said, well, they're not stupid. Why are they stupid? Well, because we can't achieve them. I said, well, how do you know you can't achieve them? Have you sat down and worked out what would have to change to achieve them? Well, you'd have to change everything in the company. And I said, well, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So it was inertia, getting this inertia going until you could get enough of the organisation behind it to start working in teams. So we set up work groups and teams to dismantle the old and build the new.
I need to just sort of recapture again, because there's some. So you're clear on the vision, you're clear on the strategy. Yeah. You've got your team, or the team of people who created this strategy. They're almost like your influencers.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh God, it was the fusion of innovation. They're your first followers, aren't they? In that way. Mm-hmm. They're the innovators and the first followers, and they are the ones that I'm guessing share that vision with you. It's yours together. It's not necessarily even with you. It's yours together. But then there's also a challenge and a champion of, in that example there that you've just given with that person. There's well, how do we know? How do we know it's not possible? Actually, I believe it is possible. Let's try it. We don't know if we haven't tried. So there's a champion and a challenge there from the leading team almost.
Yes. But the big thing that we introduced that wasn't there before in the same way was communication.
Okay.
They'd suddenly got my communications director. She was amazing, and she was a frustrated communications director because she was having to try and lead it from beneath. Okay. Rather than with me, she got a willing.
She was able to lead with you.
Yes, she was, and she did, and therefore our communication became very powerful. Yeah. And we had an intranet, a very powerful intranet, an internal net where people could go on and speak openly. And the one thing about air traffic controllers that you learn, not just to control the engineers the same, is that they're very happy to speak out openly, and use, because it tells you their name and everything. And there were some rules about it, so then we knew who was saying what. Yeah. And the most vociferous of them, I would try and corral them together and get them.
Oh, okay. So because they had an opinion, well, let's use that then. And what do you want to do with that?
If they had an opinion online, they probably had one in the office.
Yeah, sure.
So they were probably influencers in the office. Yeah. So I tried to gather these people to instead of being angry dissenters, trying to get them into, okay, so what can we do then? You're complaining about this. So what do you want to do? How do we go about it? I get them involved. So we had all these projects running where we were bringing about change. But the first thing was to take 100 million out of the business, which we did in the first year. So
you had to remove 100 million out of the business.
Yeah, we got it Yeah, but it was quite easy to do, to be honest, because it was, oh, crikey. I'd never seen anything like it.
Oh, okay. That's another podcast.
Like this. Yeah.
But there is something in that, maybe. It's like a responsibility to be aware of where costs are.
Yes. Yeah, and we had all these projects that we were supposedly going to deliver that we were never going to deliver.
So there's something in that then, isn't there? So there's as a leadership team, you're looking at almost like, what are we doing? Is it in service of what we're moving towards?
Yeah. In service of is a very good phrase. Firstly, not all of the leadership team made it. Some of them had to be changed out. Some of them went back to doing other jobs. But when I brought a new team in, they were absolutely, top quality leaders, and I'm interviewing them for their leadership, not for their.
Okay. Can I just capture that? Like, what was it? Because I have an opinion on this kind of stuff, but I want to hear it from you. It's like, when you think about, you're not interviewing them for their skill set, you're interviewing them for their ability to lead. What were the kind of things that you were looking for in those interviews?
Well, a lot of things. We put them through, a lot of testing. But
how did you know almost? How did you know they were right?
Well, I mean, firstly, what's their background?
Yeah.
Have they achieved, things in their past career? How did they achieve it? Yeah. And then when they're talking about it, are they talking about themselves or are they talking about their team?
Okay.
Are they talking about, the people in the organisation? Yeah. That's always a clue.
Yeah.
As to whether they think they did it all. I mean, I know I didn't do any of it. I know it was all done by the people down on the ground.
You were the conductor.
And that goes back to my conversation with my dad at breakfast. The people that deliver your business sit in chairs at a screen or on a phone or are making something all day long. It's not the people in an office necessarily. They're a very important part of it.
Yeah.
But they're the people that deliver, and unless you can get them motivated and clear and get them to understand, going back to, what's the three things that I need to know, unless you can help them to see the way forward, then you're never going to get the best out of them. They'll just turn up and do their job. So I'm looking for people that have got the sort of leadership traits. Do they liberate and enable people? Are they people that have created visions in the past? Of a different future? Are they good communicators? How do they communicate? How often do they communicate? I was very keen to know how they did that.
Yeah.
Do they know how to use data?
Yeah.
Those sort of things, and have they understood the power of processing a system? Have they got the basic tools, and do they have the right mentality?
Yeah.
And have they got the leadership capability to come into an organisation like this that's going through this amount of change, and to be able to sit above it, because several layers down to where the work gets done.
To going back to the word we used right at the beginning around clarity, are they able to have that perspective, liberate, enable, provide what the messaging and the vision and the communication in order to help people move towards it?
And going back to the roadshow, because I did this roadshow every year. For 6 years, and it was quite grueling because I'm travelling all over the place. One day I'm there, next day I'm here, next day I might be at a meeting in London, and then I'm back on the road again.
Yeah.
And I actually got married in the middle of one of the road shows. Took a week off, got married, had a bit of a honeymoon, got back on the road. So it was it was set, and I didn't deviate from it. They always could trust me. The other big thing that I did was that, and I've done that throughout my career, is that I embraced the trade unions.
Oh, okay.
So I got the trade unions the trade unions are very powerful in that, because they can just shut the airspace without you even knowing how it got done. Okay. So you've got to work with them, and they were very strong characters. So I got them in on day one. As a group, day 1 week as a group, and sat them down and said, look, we're going to go through change here. I've been brought in to take 100 million out, to grow the business, to commercialize it, and that's got to be in your interests.
So you're upfront and candid with them.
Now my question is, do you want to be on the train, or do you want to be under the train? How do you want it?
This is where we go. This is where we're going.
And if you're on the train, you're going to have to be in business class. I want you up front. And they said, oh, no, we want to be on the train. I said, okay, well, so my first gesture was, I gave them, for the first time, I gave them the balance sheet and the P&L account.
Oh, okay. You're completely open.
They'd never seen it.
Right.
And that they thought this was a game. They just couldn't work me out at all. I'm being this open with them. I said, there it is. There you go. I said, so you've got all the information you need there. Now, I'm not going to let you delve into pay and this is a general configuration of the organization. They had it about 3 months before they approached me and said, Paul, could you get someone to explain this to us a bit more? Because it's so complex. It's mezzanine finance.
I think there's something about you provided that in order for them to understand why. Trust. Yeah, they didn't trust you at first, and so you have this. I mean, I'm conscious of time, but I kind of want to just capture a few things that I picked up in terms of communication. You bring people in. You bring people in. You invite them in. You share the compelling vision. And say, I know I can't do this on my own. I don't know. I don't run air traffic control, but I need you. I need you with me. I need you to have an opinion. I need you to bring you, and let's work this out together. How? Because the how will come from them. So that with the trade unions, that having them in with you in business class was essential.
The other thing I think your viewers will be interested in is that you hear a lot about leaders and imposter syndrome. So I don't suffer from imposter syndrome. I know I'm an imposter. and why do I know I'm an imposter? Because I know what I don't know. And therefore that's my job.
You don't claim to know.
I'm the orchestra leader. I'm not doing their jobs. And a lot of people feel that they're imposters because they can't do those jobs.
No,
that's not their job.
In fact, you used the word liberating earlier on. That's liberating for you as a leader. I imagine if you've always had that principle, it's like it's not about me. It's about you're the facilitator, conductor, the enabler.
Somebody once asked me. They asked me a technical question at one of these. There was 100 people in the room. Got up and asked me this technical question. Do you know? And I said, I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, do you know the answer to this question? He said, yes. I said, well, good. I said, well, why would you ask me a question that you know I don't know? Why would you want to do that? Well, I want to see how you deal with it. I said, well, I am dealing with it. He said, anyway, he said, well, to finish that off, he said, he said, you should know. He said, because you get paid more than me. I said, no. I said, I earn more than you. And I got a round of applause, and he sat down and he bowed as he sat down. So he used to bloody bump into me all the time after that, and wants to chat to me about stuff. It's just being open with them, being straight with them, clarity, and challenging.
There's a kindness in that as well, isn't there? Being a person, humility, humor, all of that, humanness. Right, I've got two more questions that I'm going to have to close just for the time. Why did you want to share that story with us? What is it about that stands out in your?
Which story? This last one.
The last one. What is
this guy?
I must say no. I guess the context, Nats. It's like.
Oh, okay.
Like what? You had two stories. The earlier, the latter. What? I was like, what are you most? I don't even know what question to ask in a way, but it's like, why share that?
Let me help you. Why share it? Why share it? Because it was the most successful leadership job I ever had.
Okay.
We transformed the company beyond belief. When I left, we'd gone from losing 100 million to making 500 million.
Okay.
We'd taken delay in the airspace. It's a complex formula, but the delay in the airspace from 24 seconds down to 4 seconds. So there's no delay. During that period of time, there was no delay due to air traffic control. None in the airspace. It was always loading or passengers or whatever. It was never us. And if ever they announced it, I'm sorry, we've been delayed due to air traffic control, I used to send my card up the front and say, could I speak to the pilot? And he's got a minute. And they used to come back and I'd say it wasn't us. But then all of the other key indicators, of which are 8 or 10, we smashed them.
Okay.
Completely during that period of time. It was an amazing period. And you know, we had. I've only in my lifetime ever had what I would call 2 truly high performing teams.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. And that was my last one, because I left after that.
Your comment earlier about the sort of imposter syndrome thing, it feels like you achieved all of that by being an imposter.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just such a lovely thing to think in a way. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, of course, you're not an imposter.
No, I know. You know what I mean? But
it's a ludicrous concept.
Yeah, of course.
You know, when you think
it's about knowing. It's about knowing what leadership is, isn't it? It's about knowing what you therefore need to focus on.
It's the unease of the job, because you don't know what's going to hit you next, and you don't know whether you'll be prepared for it. You feel like you should know everything, and you can't, and you don't need to.
You can't.
You don't need to.
Okay, all right, and I just want to say also that you took your for the listeners, you took your insight working with your wife, didn't you? And you created a consultancy. It's called Human Alchemy. And that's
her consultancy. I joined it.
Sorry, yeah, her consultancy existed before all of you, isn't it?
Yeah,
you worked together.
It was hers. Yeah, we took all this learning and turned it into training and consulting.
Yeah,
and as you know, we took that on the road for great success.
Yeah, absolutely.
10 years.
And that company still exists today. It's how we met.
It is.
Know each other. And the stories within it live and breathe within Human Alchemy, but also within yourself, Paul. And it's lovely to hear them. Thank you. I guess there's one thing I always like to ask people I speak to on this podcast is, if you were to give, I guess, almost like, what's a mantra of yours, or a key principle that you would love to share with the people that are listening or watching? A mantra or a key principle that if they took it into their practice, it would serve them really well. What would you say?
I'm not prepared for this.
No.
So clarity about why you're there, what you're doing, what's expected of you. Open, listening to them. Rather than, you know, they say 2 ears and 1 mouth, used in those proportions. And that's how you should be. Listening to them, fixing the things that you can fix. When you get to the big things, then you have to explain the journey of the big stuff. You know, we're not going to fix this in a week. This is going to take a while, but we're taking it on, and this is the team working on it, and this is where you can find the progress. Yeah. So communication is probably the biggest single thing I would say. And
that going back a step, in order to communicate well, you need to know your mind. You need to be clear yourself.
You've got to have clarity.
All of that. So be clear, have clarity, and know your mind. And communicate in service of it. Paul, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me and to share your world. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Good to see you. All right. See you soon.
Bye-bye now.